Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Enso Build, our live broadcast that we have every 2 weeks. So every time we have an episode, we bring with us a different guest from a DeFi protocol that we work with that's using Enso for some of the operations, and we will explain to you exactly how it works, and we will show you a demo of how it looks like from a user perspective. So we have with me here today Dan from Benqi Finance and Nana, who is our DevRel at Enzo, and I'm BD at Enzo. So we're very happy to be with you today. So for the audience, please look at the screen at the bottom. This is our X handle, Enzo Build and Benqi Finance. Please follow us to keep abreast of all our latest developments. Any news or announcements, be the first to catch it there. So this podcast is going to last for about 30 to 45 minutes, and the content will go as so. First, we will have Nana and Dan to introduce themselves and their projects, what it's all about, so that you can understand each project and how Enzo is being used to help the project. And then at the end of it, we will have a live demo from Dan about Benqi and what Benqi is using us for. In this case, it is a Zap to repay. And then for the audiences, if you have any questions that you have prepared for us today, or if in the midst of the broadcast you think of something that you want to ask us, just feel free to drop us a message in the comments or anywhere else, or maybe in Discord or anywhere else that our team member can see it. They will pass it to us, and then we will give live feedback to you. All right, so to kick it off, let's start. Dan or Nana, who should go first?
Well, since we're doing this every week, I think it's best to kick it off with Dan. So maybe Dan, you can tell us a little bit about Benqi, about your role in there, what you guys are building.
Okay, so Benqi is really like a suite of DeFi protocols, all governed by one token, the G token. So it's a combination of liquid staking and lending. It's primarily known for these two products. And Benqi is purely on Avalanche. It also provides Ignite, a product called Ignite, which essentially allows people to be able to bootstrap validators on Avalanche. So yeah, these are the key three products that Benqi provides. And as a result, it's now I believe, the largest DeFi protocol on Avalanche by TVL. It's existed since 2021 and continues to go.
Oh, so since 2021, that's quite a track record there you got. Cool. So my name is Nenad. I'm a DevRel at Enso, as Lindy said. And a little bit about Enso. We're the team that makes possible building shortcuts for DeFi operations, like cross-chain zapping into vaults. Like, it sounds like a mouthful. When you explain it, it's got a lot of moving parts. And what we do is we're enabling builders to actually create that stuff for the DeFi users who don't need to go into manual bridging and swapping and doing all that stuff and investing a lot of time. And you can imagine more complex use cases that you can build with Enso. So for builders, that means they can build and create their blueprints for moving assets in various different ways. And it gives them, I could say, a tool that helps them be more expressive about what they want and get those shortcuts built pretty fast. Now, Dan, as you're coming from a project that used Enso, would you add something to that description of what Enso does?
Yeah, I like to describe it as a way to just create a shortcut for products who want to connect to other DeFi products. So I think that's the shortest way to explain this. A typical example is, if I introduce someone to Avalanche today and they want to use anything on Avalanche, the first thing that they have to figure out is, hey, how do I bridge to Avalanche? Which protocol do I go to? Which bridging protocol do I go to? And essentially, Enso makes it easy to do these things. So rather than having to go to a separate website or going somewhere, if you already know the product that you want to use in DeFi, if you plug in something like an Enso API, it can create a lot of those shortcuts so that you don't actually need to know how to bridge or where to bridge from. It makes it a lot easier for the user.
So the total effect is dev teams can actually build better user experience for the end users.
Yeah, it creates, yeah. And, at the end of the day, from Benqi's perspective, what we're trying to do is to create a very smooth, hassle-free sort of experience, right? Where we have all of these integrated solutions. Yeah, and just interacting with all kinds of DeFi on-chain protocols without having to be the expert.
Okay, so if you could share your take on how would you comment on, let's say, recent market movements in which there's so many new chains coming on board? Would you see that funds are being fragmented on all the multiple chains? And as a lending protocol, very heavily on Avalanche, how does this affect you, and what's your personal take on it? Like, do you feel like, okay, this new chain is coming up and there's a lot of TVL and maybe I should get on board? Do you ever feel like this pool, and how? Well, what is your thinking?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. It's been very tempting, I have to say, especially because we've been around for 4 years. We've had a lot of offers to launch Benqi on other chains. But the thing is, we've stayed true to our core belief. So we like the Avalanche ecosystem. We like the technology. We see how it's actually going to scale. And if I look around what's happening everywhere else, a lot of people are building applications, and then once they gain product market fit, they essentially end up building their own application on a chain. We've seen this example, like with so many applications in the last few years. So I believe that everyone is actually converging to this model that Avalanche has always had from the start, where you need to build your own chain for your own application. So for that reason, and because the user experience is good, where you have fast finality for a user, we've just never seen the need to go and build Benqi on all these new chains that are spinning up. Because if we can have a very simple way to be able to onboard these users into using Benqi, then it really shouldn't matter what chain they're on, right? As a product, that should be our focus. Our focus should be the user having a great experience, and then not having to know how complex it is or how to go from one chain to the other. If we can make that experience simple, then it's not about tribalism or knowing about what chain to get onto. If you're thinking really that you want to onboard people who are not new to crypto, they don't want to know about what chain you're on, and they also don't want to know how to bridge from one chain or the other chain or transfer assets from one chain to the other. So we've been looking for solutions over the last few years, and it has been a slow process. But I would say Enso has been the one that has actually got closest to what we're looking for. So when we're doing the demonstration, you'll be able to get an idea of what that looks like from Benqi's perspective and how we can develop on it even further.
Okay. So since we're on the topic of lending markets, I also have another question. Also, another recent development that I would like to have your comments on about the hybridization of DEXs and lending markets. So first, it started with Fluid, and then Euler. So do you see that this is an upcoming trend, or really it's just isolated to these two cases, that lending markets in the end, there's 10,000 lending markets, and if you really want to be better, you have something different like the DEX.
So I I think I don't want to speak out of. I actually think Benqi started with this idea by by starting off, and this was in 2021, and I think it might be true. Starting off with lending and liquid staking, and I think today I've probably only seen one other, maybe two other protocols now that actually have this, right, where they have lending and liquid staking together. And then now, of course, in 2022, 2023, we then started to see other products build lending and swaps, right? But for us, it absolutely made sense to have lending and liquid staking coupled together because these two products work really well. You have your lending asset, sorry, your liquid staking asset, which you can then bring into lending. They complement each other in such a great way. And I think that's why it was successful on Benqi. And honestly, I can see more and more protocols doing that, like Fluid and I can't remember the other one you mentioned. But I can see other protocols putting lots of these together to provide a better experience to the user. Because at the end of the day, they all earn protocol revenue, which is eventually going to be useful to the people who actually take part in that ecosystem. Yeah, I think we'll see more.
So I would say that what I see is that you are very confident and very stable about your positioning since you've been like that since 2021. You don't feel tempted to add new hype chains, and then you don't go after like points and airdrops and all that. You really just about your liquid staking and your lending. And so I guess your users are they? Do you feel like your users are more sticky than the
Yes.
normal farming users, and they stick with you throughout the years? So, what is your take on that? Like the way that you
Right.
position yourself.
With the way we're positioned, it makes us very sticky. We've noticed that a lot of our users, the liquidity just doesn't leave. They use Benqi for what it is. It's a place to earn yield on your assets. Um, but that said, it doesn't mean that we don't want to grow. We have plans to grow, and that's why Enso is actually really important for us as part of this onboarding. I think different projects have taken different approaches. So I would say, for example, Aave has taken the approach of launching on multiple chains, growing the TVL very quickly, which has been very successful for them. What we decided to do was to actually focus on ensuring that the experience for the user stays the same, and then making sure that it's easy for anyone who wants to then come from outside of crypto or centralized exchanges, or also from other DeFi um, platforms.
So one special thing that I want to touch on is that prior to our partnership with Benqi, we usually only had Zap to deposit into collateral. But because of you, you gave us this idea of, hey, can you have a Zap to repay as well? And of course, we did it, and it was really you that gave us the idea. What was the thought process behind this? Why did you come up with the idea? And then after that, Nana can share as well. Like this is something new. How would you see that it fits well into the docs and to the rest of the Enso clients that you communicate with?
Um, I would say the reason was because we're heavy users of our products, right? I use Benqi every single day. I also go through Telegram chats and Discord chats to see what people talk about. And we go through a lot of the questions that come through. And ideally, like my goal is to not have a user ask any questions. If they don't, the less questions we have on our Discord and Telegram, then the more successful I know that the product is becoming for those users, more useful. So we check through what our users do. When our users come to Benqi, where did they come from previously? So a lot of users we noticed were using swaps. They would go and swap USDC to USDC just to deposit into Benqi. Or if they want to repay an asset on Benqi, they'll go somewhere else, swap into that asset, and then come back. So we've always aimed to reduce the number of clicks for those users. That's why we have this swap now integrated directly with Enso. So if anybody wants to repay the asset, and this is just one example where hopefully in the future we're actually going to add more functionalities. So for example, rather than just repay, you can just supply an asset. Say for example, I want to supply USDC, but I have any other asset, I can use that asset to actually make that supply happen. And if I want to, yeah. So these are some of the examples. Not just repay. We can also do supply. We can do it in liquid staking. In fact, we can couple these two protocols, the lending and the liquid staking. Say for example, I know that I have AVAX. I want to earn yield on my AVAX by minting SAVAX, the liquid staking token. So the first thing I'll do would be go to Benqi's liquid staking, mint SAVAX, and then I have to go back to lending and then supply the SAVAX into lending to also increase that yield. Well, this should actually be done in one step. There's no need to be going to two protocols within Benqi. So really what the user should do is simply go to Benqi lending, say they want to supply SAVAX, even though they don't have it. If they have AVAX, you just click SAVAX supply, and then Enso in the background will make that swap into SAVAX and then deposit it immediately in just one transaction.
But that's really possible, right? I think
It is possible, but I'm thinking like there are so many other things. There's so many other functionalities that we can bring in, so we can do it cross chain. But it will be coming. It will be coming through the next few weeks.
alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Nana, maybe you can share your take on this new Zap to Repay function, and what kind of potential do you see to our current client base?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I would just like to take a little step back and reflect on this entire conversation. We talked about chains popping up and this dispersion and fragmentation that's happening, and people are lost. And then we were trying to bring those together to converge to make it easier for users. And I think when it comes to functionalities available in a single app, this is also the case. Like, you want to have powerful, let's say, primitives, powerful operations such as zapping to repay on somebody's behalf. And for that reason, since this is massively has a massive potential to improve the user experience, I have a pretty good gut feeling that a lot of our client base will actually benefit from something like this, because it enables easier operations for them, and of course, building it becomes easier. And finally, which is most important, the end users will have a much smoother way to achieve such things. So I'm looking forward to seeing that in the next period.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's very interesting. So let's say maybe we can move on to the live demo now. Dan, are you ready?
Yep.
Let's go.
Okay, so right now I've supplied AVAX and USDT on Benqi.
Are you sharing your screen?
Oh, can you not see my?
Yeah, okay, can see now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, can see.
So I've supplied AVAX and USDT on Benqi, and I've also borrowed USDT. So say, for example, actually, let me borrow some more USDT. So what I want to do, yeah, okay. So I've borrowed 12 USDT. So what I want to do is repay this loan. And I don't have enough USDT to repay the loan. So let's just go. I'll check my balance. Actually, I do have, sorry. Let me borrow some more. I just want to make sure that I have enough. We'll borrow another 8. So say, for example, I should update in a second. Okay, borrow 20. So say I want to repay USDC, but I don't have enough USDC, but I want to use another asset, for example, right? But the first thing to do is to say, I want to repay this max, but I want to repay it using another asset that I know that I have. So I know that I have AVAX in my wallet. Okay. So what Enso is doing in the background is to calculate how much AVAX that I need, and I can simply just do that and repay using the AVAX that is in my wallet.
I see, that's very convenient.
Yeah. So ignore this. It's actually gone through, but we're fixing that at the moment. So yeah, as you can see, that's repaid. But there are so many things we can do here. So one thing is we can repay the loan using any other asset. We can repay the loan using part of the balance that we have already on the wallet, and then use Enso for the rest of the repayment. we can supply an asset using what we already have. So we can say, hey, I want to supply ETH, for example. I say I want to supply ETH, but I want to do that using AVAX, right? Because I don't have any ETH. So Enso works in the background and actually does that supply. The other thing I could do is say I want to supply SAVAX. Okay, say supply SAVAX. I don't have any SAVAX, but I want to supply SAVAX using AVAX that I have. Now, what this does is it fast tracks that process, because previously what I would have needed to do would be to go to Benqi's liquid staking, mint SAVAX here, and then go back to Benqi lending and supply SAVAX. Right. So it creates a shortcut and then allows me to just do everything in one simple transaction.
That's very interesting. So, other than this being an increased convenience for the existing users, do you think it will open up new opportunities
Yes.
for
So
higher use?
yeah, the opportunities that I think it can open up is any user. So right now we've only just got this, to test it on Avalanche, but we're going to be opening up very soon to cross-chain capabilities. So imagine a user who's on Solana and they want to bridge over their Sol to mint SAVAX or to mint any other asset on Avalanche. It means that they can easily just come here and use this while their wallet is connected and be able to mint an asset that is already on the C chain directly from Solana. So it opens opportunities for users to actually come into Benqi from other chains.
Do you think you would want to open new markets of other yield-bearing tokens as well, other than SAVAX, like Panda tokens or other LSTs?
We intend to open more. So currently we only have one isolated market, which is this. So a yield. We're definitely going to be opening. I'm not sorry. This is the market, ecosystem markets. We're going to be opening a dedicated market for yield-bearing tokens, stables. But I don't know about Pendle tokens. But I know that very soon we're going to be having a separate market for yield-bearing tokens.
Yeah, because the market is so competitive now, everybody is just fighting to give more yield, right? And what better
Yes.
way and what more direct way than to just stack the yield? So,
Yeah, I mean, it shows that the market is maturing, right? If you're getting more and more yield-bearing tokens, then yes, we have to open up that market because we see demand for it.
yeah, maybe then I can comment a bit on this as well. Like as DevRel, when you communicate with the devs on the other side, have you been seeing increased demands for yield-bearing tokens these days for shortcuts that have to do with all these yield-bearing tokens?
Okay, go on.
Yeah. Specifically about yield-bearing tokens, I would say that the demand is quite steady. I honestly couldn't say that there was a high increase in demand because I guess people are actively working on it. So didn't see an explosion there, to be honest. I don't know, Lindy, what did you notice as a BD in there
I do realize that
in the earlier stages of?
I do realize that there's a lot more demand for stable coins, a lot of new stable coins. And yield-bearing tokens, not so much on the Panda side. I see mainly just Panda and Spectra dominating the market right now. But for liquid staking tokens, yes, there's a lot. Depends on what chain as well. So for DeFi focused chains like Bearer chain, there's a lot of yield-bearing tokens. Other chains that are more skewed towards DeFi side will have quite a lot. But I would say stable coins are more. They work quite similarly in the sense that you mint something out and then you have to keep the price stable and then you have to find yield for it. So, but yeah, I'm seeing a lot more of yield bearing tokens and also markets accepting yield bearing tokens. Like DEXs opening LPs, pools of yield bearing tokens, lending markets, creating markets for yield bearing tokens and all that, really just to attract more users. and people are just farming, hopping from here to there. So that's why I think Benqi is really cool. Like I'm looking at your markets, and these are all blue chip tokens, and you really don't have any of like the new hype tokens. So I must imagine that your users must be like really going for the core ability of you to generate real yield from what you have, and not
Yeah.
some air coins.
And to be honest, the way when we set up Benqi initially, the goal was always to be the boring platform, but it has the trusted assets with huge liquidity, right? Because we knew there were going to be a lot of other players who would go and create other sort of lending platforms with, exotic tokens. This was back in 21. But now these yield-bearing tokens and other types of tokens have become more stable, more secure. Because at the time, if you remember in 2021, the biggest one at the time was UST. The biggest new stable at the time was UST. So we weren't so keen to list new assets at the time. But Benqi has just focused on highly liquid assets. And then now we've created the Avalanche ecosystem market, which is just isolated with some assets with low liquidity. But then the next thing that you'll see as part of the lending market will be one that focuses on stables. Then we'll look at the yield-bearing ones. Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to ask, this question goes out to both of you. What is your take on stablecoin? So what do you think is the big deal? Like, why is stablecoin seeing such a hype right now? Is USDC and USDT not enough?
I don't think it's enough. I think people want to be able to generate yield, and it's not. I think you're going to have assets that want to live on chain and be on chain and not be centralized. Right? And I think everyone is quite comfortable with USDT and USDT, but people also want to have things that live on chain and that rely on BTC and ETH and whatever else asset that is going to be useful to an ecosystem. So I think if you look at Avalanche, you'll probably be seeing quite a few stable coins start to come up in a few weeks that focus on this. One of them is called SX, so keep an eye on that.
I see Avalanche is moving very strongly into TradFi, into sort of like Web 2.5. A lot of RWA is coming up. Things like Securitize, BlackRock funds, maybe tokenized stocks as well. How do you see this affects banking? How does this? I mean, it's definitely going to affect you in some way or another. You being the biggest lending market.
We haven't ventured there yet. I don't want to promise that we're going to be creating a market specifically for that. Because,
I'm sure there's pressure on you to do so.
Yes, we have had conversations. It might happen, but we haven't committed to launching anything yet. And RWA assets definitely make sense. It's an area we're not just going to ignore, and it's an area that I believe will grow massively over the next 2 years. And I think this will grow in every other ecosystem. But Avalanche has been quite focused on these sort of assets. But one thing we know for sure is it takes time with institutions. But they've been working diligently into onboarding these sort of assets. And I believe they've made quite a few announcements in the last few months in this area.
Yeah,
Frankel Templeton and some other ones.
Nana, do you want to contribute anything on that about stable coins and from your POV?
Yeah, so more or less, it's a different way to just say what Dan already said. It feels like USDT, USDC, they became like the staple thing, and diversification of stables is and tying it to specific ecosystems is something that the space is moving towards. So that's that's how I perceive the whole stablecoin movement these days.
I think there's a lot of potential for Enso shortcuts as well for all these different stable coins. Because traditionally, for stable coins, they just mint something and then it's backed by some bonds. So all you do is that with your funds, you can buy some treasury bonds and then you share the yield. but nowadays it's not enough. So other than buying bonds, you have to go and use the token to deposit in some lending market, which might be Benqi or some other lending market, to generate yield. And how do you do that? You have to use Enso shortcuts. So there's really a lot of potential for both of you, for Nana and for Dan, in a bid to get more yield. So yeah, they have to get yield from some other source that's more than treasury bonds. And then for us, and so we provide a lot of routes for that. And of course, lending markets is one of the routes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Enso is a very important primitive in the ecosystem, in any ecosystem, one that is essentially just performs in the background. Like you have this middleware that performs in the background where people don't even know that it's happening. But it plays a very, very key role to how easy it will be to be able to onboard users to use these products that we create.
I think that seems to be from my conversation with you, that seems to be the metric of what you think is a good product that users don't know that it exists, right? So for yourself, you say your dream is that nobody texts anything on Discord. So it's like as if they don't know, right? So everything just moves. It just works like electricity. You flip the switch and it's on. You don't need to know how the wires work. All you need to know that is that it's working.
The ideal way that I'd like to see this work is if I just say to someone, hey, come and use Benqi, all they need is a Gmail account, right? Imagine that you have a Gmail account, you come to Benqi, you sign in with a Gmail account, which already has, let's say, Google Pay, or you're connected with a centralized exchange, or you have some wallet somewhere. You come to Benqi and then you don't even know you're on Avalanche. You don't know, you just want to get access to USDC yield or USDT or some other stable coin. And all of this thing just works in the background without you having to think of what chain you're using, what gas you need. Enso just helps you do all of that in the background. That would be ideal.
Yeah, there's actually also many new projects that building on this right now, like smart wallets, account abstraction, in the sense that they actually support many chains. But then, if you're daring enough, you don't even put the logo Avalanche there, so the user signs in, and really there's no indication of whatever chain. So,
Right.
but I feel that can be a bit uncomfortable for people who are used to DeFi, because I was asked to do a trial, and then I went in and I discovered that okay, I don't see any chain and I don't see what token on what chain, and I feel a bit insecure. Like, okay, now I don't know what's happening. So I didn't feel like I dared to make a transaction. So it can work both ways.
Yeah, I agree. You can have I guess you can have a pro mode. Yeah. You can have a newbie mode and a pro mode.
Yeah, I guess it's all about like getting user feedback and doing iteration from there. Then also depends on what kind of demographic your users come from. So, but I guess that's the good thing about what I really like about our relationship with Benqi. So for our side, we are very fast moving. So like for your side as well, I really appreciate that like I really like it that when you thought about the Zap to repay method, you didn't just treat it as okay, it's not possible because you didn't see it in the docs, but you did ask us like, hey, we would like to do this, and do you think you can do it for us? And then in that sense, it opened a new opportunity for all of us, for everybody to benefit, and even spillover benefits to other projects who might want to use this method. So now it's available and open to everybody. So that's really cool, and one of the favorite things I like about Benqi.
Thank you. Yeah. I believe there will be a lot more.
Oh yeah, looking forward. We always love a challenge, Our devs love a challenge, so feel free to shoot them with any questions, any new ideas.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's open the floor to any audience questions. Are there any audience questions? Okay. I think there's one audience question here. Given Benqi's scale on Avalanche and Enzo's focus on simplifying complex strategies, what specific opportunities does this integration unlock for everyday users and power users alike? And what role can the community play in driving adoption? I guess this is open to both of you.
Okay, I'll answer from Benqi's perspective. In terms of specific opportunities that it opens, time is money, right? So by creating these shortcuts, you do less. You have less clicks. You have less websites to go to. Less chance of getting fished by going to a random bridge or a random swap. You just come straight to Benqi. What we're trying to create on Benqi is to prevent you having to go to many sites in order just to use Benqi. So if we can save you time, we're saving you money and hopefully keeping you safer.
Yeah, I think security is the most important. Like you never know when you go to a malicious website and then you do some weird transaction. So right here, you stay on Benqi and everything is done here. So yeah, as a user, I feel it's the safest. I'm always very skeptical of jumping out to different external sites. Second part of the question was what role can a community play in driving adoption? I guess both for Benqi and for Enso. What would you like the community to help you do?
I would I would like the community to actually come up, like, join our Telegram, join our Discord. We're there every day. If you have any ideas, if you see something that takes you 2 or 3 steps that you think can be done in 1 step, just let us know. Like these things that we've suggested to Enzo are as a result of us just playing around with the platforms, using them every day and realizing that, hey, actually, there's so many things that we can fast track here. If I know that I go to 3, 4 websites every day, why do I need to go to all 3? Why can't I just use Enzo for that? If there is anything specific that you do, so one for sure that we know is that people mint SAVAX and then come to lending, things like that, right? If we know there are a lot of our users are doing it, then we should be making their lives easier. So we're looking for such ideas to come forward, people to come up with such ideas. If you find any bugs, this is a new thing. These are just new things that we're bringing in. So you will definitely find some bugs, like I showed you earlier. But we're working on all of them. Should I answer the next question about cross-chain?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the question is this the final version of cross-chain, or will there be another update? There'll definitely be another update. The first version was just to test it on Avalanche, see how it works, make sure, because this is new to us. We will then roll out a cross-chain version, which will make it even more amazing for users to be able to come from other chains. So I think that's going to grow the user base for Benqi as well, by making it cross-chain for sure.
Great. Then is there anything you want to comment on, especially about the previous question, what role can the community play in driving Enso adoption?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about the community, I see like 2, but maybe there are more, let's say, streams in that community. One is the builders who are using Enso, who needs shortcuts to build more convenient interfaces and more convenient use cases, and the are actually DeFi users who are always listening to what Enso is building and releasing. So for both the best way to help you move, ask for shortcuts you need, both in development and in using DeFi. Because in that awareness, what is where you have multiple steps or where you need to use different interfaces or do some multi-chain stuff, that's important because that points us to, okay, this is a bit that we can optimize both. And so who's providing shortcuts and the DeFi teams who are building that. So in short, wherever people get some sort of headache or a challenge they need to solve, maybe there's a shortcut for that. And if there isn't, we should find one and create one. So all in all, ask for shortcuts. Yep. And I guess to answer the first part of that question, like simplifying complex strategies and the opportunities this unlocks, well, in the end, you can achieve more with less cognitive load and with less time investment and with less stress and risk exposure. So I think when we think about those benefits, it's quite worthwhile.
Okay, that's great. I think we have come to the end of our podcast today. There are no other audience questions. So to end it off all, yeah, again, follow Enzo Bill and Benqi Finance on our socials. And any last words that we have from Nana or Dan?
Um, from Benqi's side, I'm happy with the users that we've had, the feedback that we've had from users. We've had feedback on Enso as well. It's been very positive. So it's encouraged us to continue building and to make things a lot easier for people who come to use it. So I just want to say thank you to everyone.
And Nana?
To say ask for shortcuts, and thank you to Dan and building these sorts of solutions where they don't accept the limitations that currently exist.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time. So let me repeat. We have this
Did you hear me there?
podcast once every 2 weeks. So the next one will be 2 weeks from now. So for the audience, if you have any suggestions on what would you would like to see for the next episode, maybe on what specific topic that you have, or what project that you would like us to invite, or really just any feedback or comments, please let us know through social media. We have a Discord, and we also have a Telegram, public Telegram and public Discord. Feel free to join and ask any questions. For developer questions, come to our Telegram. We have our devs there to help you if you have any issues. And for any social stuff, just join us on Discord, say hi, say GM every day, and just really enjoy and contribute. So thank you again, and thank you for our colleagues who are helping us back end to help us to arrange all this. And yep, see you again soon. That's the end.